I genuinely wonder sometimes that if my dad and I didn't have cars, like what the heck would we have talked about? Our relationship revolved around cars, period, that was it. But because of these cars, we became best friends. My name is Jake Auerbach, and this is a '51 Chrysler New Yorker rally car. Everyone thinks that we got this car from some sort of exotic place or, pulled it out of a junkyard, when in reality it was eBay where we got this car. When we purchased it, my father and I had been doing long-distance rallies for some time. We did a lot to this car, sort of creative solutions to the problems you encounter in a historic rally. Things like the exhaust. It's a side pipe out the passenger side. It's a hefty chunk of metal. There's nothing that takes more of a beating on one of these rallies than your exhaust pipe. You drill out the floors to get some positive pressure into the car. Things like diamond plate footrests for the navigator, because a lot of times you really got to brace yourself just to kind of keep a steady read. The precision speedometer we have, which is like right in your face. It's actually difficult to drive with it there, but it's the most important thing for the driver. I grew up in New York City. My world was pretty small, but I did my first long-distance rally. Went from Philadelphia to San Rafael, California in a '53 Lazzarino, an Argentine race car with no roof. And I got to see the US. Me and my dad kind of fell in love with it together. So this car, it's done Carrera, Pikes Peak, Chihuahua Rally, Mount Equinox Hill Climb, but we logged 10,000 miles of competition. Momentum is kind of the name of the game with this car. It's not beating anyone off the line. This car can handle a pretty steady clip once you got up there, and you got a lot of weight pulling you forward. It's got a 354 Hemi in it, a really race-built engine with dual quad Webers. It's also a big Chrysler New Yorker, 2 larger gentlemen in it, and 2 boxes full of spares weighing probably 400 pounds. The interior of this car is, a lot of it's the original interior, most notably the steering wheel, which is, your kind of school bus style steering wheel like this, and it's, 4 or 5 turns to lock on each side. Since we've owned it, we've tried many times to break it, and it's not succumbed to any of those attempts. We also killed 2 deer with the car during a rally in New Jersey. It hit them both at the same time. They were not as fortunate as the car, which survived intact except for a couple pieces of trim on the front. My dad had always had this thing for what he called lipstick on cars. We took this opportunity to replace that front end metal with these 2 red pieces there. So this car, it's subtle, but if you notice it, it gives it this kind of cool look, and that was one of his personal touches. I was 13 or 14. My dad had been restoring these cars with a restoration expert named Jim Shelley. As my dad put it, why don't you work for Jim this summer, pumping gas? And Jim and I became good friends. It's really what marked the beginning of me committing myself to kind of being a car guy. My dad, he was useless in the garage. I think he was, in a way, training a mechanic in me. I have a picture that shows it perfectly too. During the Trans-America Challenge, we were outside of Bozeman, Montana, and an oil line burst. A big surprise, it wasn't him who ended up under the car in the freezing rain outside of Bozeman. but someone took a picture of us. Our arms are around each other, and we had on these high-vis jackets because we were broken down on the side of the road, and his jacket looks brand new. And mine, it looks like I'd run over it like a handful of times. We didn't ever win together a single rally, and we tried really hard. And something really catastrophic would always happen. The first rally I ever won actually was the first rally I did after my dad had passed. And the irony there is just overwhelming. And me and my family got a great laugh out of that. So since my dad's passed, we'll insist upon continuing to compete in vintage events. There was nothing more important to him about these cars than driving them and using them and sharing them with people. I'm trying to get this car ready now for the Peking Paris rally. And I take that role very seriously because it's something my dad had actually started. We were going to run it. He got sick very suddenly and couldn't do it. But he wanted to, and so this is something I'm going to do.